All right, let's dive into a really powerful idea, one that kind of shapes our whole lives, our careers, even how we feel about ourselves, the meritocracy myth.
You ever get that feeling like you're in a race, but some people got to start like right at the finish line? Well, today, we're going to break down why that feeling is often totally on the money. See, the thing is, what we call a meritocracy might not be the fair and square system we think it is. The core idea we're digging into here is that it's really just a fresh coat of paint on an ancient social pyramid. Basically, it's a new name for a very, very old game. So, where do we start? Let's peel back the first layer of this whole thing. This is the one we all know, the one we hear about all the time: personal effort.
You know the story, right? From the time we're little kids, it's just drilled into us. Hustle, grind, put in the hours. If you just work harder than the next person, you'll make it to the top. It's a really simple, really powerful narrative. But is it actually true?
And this is where that simple story just shatters. I mean, look at this. The data is just shocking. Your test scores, which are supposed to be a measure of your merit, right? They have a tiny, tiny impact on where you end up in life compared to something you have absolutely zero control over, your zip code. Just think about what that really means for the idea of a level playing field. So if the evidence points somewhere else, why do we all cling so tightly to that hard work story? Well, it's psychological. Our brains are basically wired to prefer a story where things are fair and we're in control. The alternative, that so much of success is just a geographic lottery ticket, that's a really tough pill to swallow. Okay, so that's the individual level. Now let's zoom out to the next level and see how this thing is built. Removing beyond you and me and looking at the actual rules of the game. Let's talk about structural advantage. So there's this really important concept called ambient power. Think of it like the invisible architecture of society. It's all around us, but we don't always see it. It's made up of these unspoken rules and, imaginary lines that give some people a massive head start before the game even begins. And it has nothing to do with their talent or how hard they work.
And the thing is, this ambient power, it isn't some law of nature. It's not like gravity. It's a system built on man-made rules. Think about it. Zoning laws that create these deeply segregated neighborhoods, tax codes that are way friendlier to wealth than they are to wages, and of course, the direct inheritance of money and status. The very architecture of the system is designed to keep things unequal.
Which brings us to level 3, and this is one that many of us have spent years and a lot of money chasing after: the credential trap.
We're all taught that getting that degree, that fancy title, that's the proof of our merit. But a lot of the time, it's more about something called positional power. You're not actually proving your skill, you're just renting the authority and status that comes with a big-name institution. It's like a key that gets you through the door, but it doesn't always say much about what you can actually do once you're inside.
And if you look closer, you can kind of see how the machine works. The system often rewards just conforming, getting the one right answer, instead of real-world problem solving. It filters people, hands out the credential, and that piece of paper acts as this super powerful signal that says, hey, you belong to the right club. It becomes less about what you're capable of and more about just having that membership card.
Okay, this is the big one. We've reached the final, and honestly, the most powerful level of the myth. This is where the system stops being an outside force and gets inside your head. This is ideological power.
And this, to me, is the most brilliant and kind of sneaky part of the whole system. At this level, believing in meritocracy isn't just a practical thing. It becomes your moral duty. If you succeed, well, you earned it. You deserve it. And if you fail, well, that's on you. It's your fault.
So what happens when you truly internalize that ideology? The system doesn't need outside forces to keep you in line anymore. You start policing yourself. You push yourself to conform, to hustle, to play the game, because you've started to believe that your entire personal worth is tied to whether or not you can win it.
And what's the fuel for this self-policing engine? It's something we all know: status anxiety. It's that constant nagging feeling in the back of your head that you're falling behind, that you're not good enough. And that feeling keeps us performing, chasing the next degree, the next promotion, because we're convinced that our status is what defines our value as a person.
So, we've peeled back all these layers, right? Personal effort, structural advantage, the credential trap, and finally, ideology. So what's the point? What's the big takeaway? Well, the goal is to finally see the game for what it really is. And here's the most important thing to walk away with. This whole complicated system with its rules and credentials and beliefs, it feels so permanent, right? It feels inevitable. But it's not a law of physics. It's not gravity.
That's all it is. It's a shared story, a piece of social software that we humans created to organize ourselves. And because we invented it, it means it can be understood, it can be questioned, and maybe it can be changed.
So listen, the point of all this isn't to make you feel hopeless. It's actually the opposite. It's about empowerment. Understanding how the game works means you can finally stop blaming yourself for a game that may have been rigged against you long before you even sat down at the table.
And that brings me to one last question for you to chew on. Think back through these different levels we talked about: personal effort, structural advantage, the credential trap, and that ideological power. Which piece of this myth did you buy into the longest? Give it some thought. Thanks for joining me on this one.